So I'm now going to turn it over to Madison Yandell. She is our merchandise chair and also chair of the social media committee for the Capital Republican Women. So Madison, why don't you take it away for us and introduce our panel?
Hi, everyone. I'm Madison. Like Cassie said, I help manage all of our PR efforts. So I'll be moderating our first panel, which is titled, I Wish Someone Told Me, Advice from the Veterans. So we have some awesome vets here tonight to give y'all some advice. And like Cassie's mentioned, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat during the discussion. And I will get to those once we wrap up our questions. So just to go ahead and introduce, and if you want more information on them, we've posted their bios in the Facebook event page and on our other social media channels. So feel free to check those out. First, we have Brittany Eck, and then Mia McCord, as well as Ashley Morgan. So I'm going to go ahead and start it off. Bit of a lighter question. What is your favorite way to spend a day off? And since I see you first on my screen, I'll start with you, Mia.
Well, I have 2 young kids, so I really don't get a choice on my day off. I pretty much spend it with them by demand. But when I do get a little extra time, I do like to read non-policy related books. I used to enjoy running. My mom hips don't really allow me to do that anymore, but just being outside and outdoors with the kids is usually my day off thing.
Great. Brittany?
I spend quite a bit of time volunteering and participating in group organizations. One of my favorite, and I'll go ahead and give a plug for it here, is the Stewards of the Wild. It's a division of Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation, and they go on awesome camping trips and have educational events and whatnot. But anything you can do where I'm outside of a city and particularly where your Wi-Fi is not working, I absolutely adore it.
I'm sure, especially nowadays. Ashley?
I'd have to say probably just hanging out with my family and friends. You know, I love so many of my Capital friends, and I consider them my personal friends. But I also have this whole world up in Round Rock and Georgetown that feels like it's in Oklahoma whenever I'm on I-35. But you know, my groups don't often intersect, and so it's a really good time for me to be able to get to see them. And I really enjoy a little bit of time with wine and friends and family. So it's as simple as that. I also really like to sleep. It's my favorite.
Well, I'll go ahead and send the next question to you. What is one habit that will make your first 30 days easier on this job?
I figured Mia would take that, but I guess I'll take it. So I'll just go ahead and say it. Your first weekend, just get organized. And I know that's awful because it's over a weekend, but just do it. It will make you feel so much better. And I mean organized, like you're not going to learn everything, and just know you're not going to learn everything. But go ahead and try. Most of you are probably type A personalities. I think I can probably just assume that. And so I can get organized. The other thing, and I Sarah Marie Kinney Ridley on this line, and I remember telling her this 100 years ago when we worked together. It's been too long. Get a binder, a notepad, a steno pad, whatever, and just go ahead and do your to-do list and do all of your notes behind it. And keep in mind, if you work for the state of Texas, you will be open record requested. So do not put anything in there that's going to get you and your boss in trouble. Write in your own shorthand if you need to, and then cross them off and start another one, and cross them off and start another one, and just always have it with you. And I know that is so basic, but I have gone a couple times in my career and not had that, and I always go back to it, and it works. It just does. It's simple. Just do it. And, you know, I do a whole lot of stuff on my phone now, but seriously, a notepad with the notes and that, wait, what day did I do that? It is really helpful. Just do it. Get organized.
There's also no better feeling than scratching something off a to-do list. All right, I'll send it to you now, Mia.
And if I can build on that, not only get organized professionally, but get organized personally. You know, my husband and I spent the weekend before session started quite literally organizing our closets, making sure we had the kids' lunches planned out, making sure that we had groceries orders and meals planned out. Because as you get going, if that's a habit, you'll use that time wisely on a Sunday night or what have you not. You know, we know that Sundays are dedicated to church and getting organized. And so, you know, even beyond, you'd be surprised at how flustered you will get if your personal life is disorganized and then you have to go to an office where you need to be really organized and on top of it. You almost feel like you can never catch up. And that, I think, has just come with having kids and understanding that, you know, if they're not ready to go and out the door, then mom's not ready to go and out the door, and that can throw so much off. But it took me a long time to learn that the more organized I am at home, the better I perform on the job. So those first 30 days are just so key. And, you know, for us, it gets our kids in the habit. They know that we leave the house at, you know, 7 a.m. sharp. And so there is a slew of things that have to happen before we leave the door, and they know when they come home, it's homework and whatnot. And so, you know, those first 30 days can really set you up for a successful 5 months.
Thank you. And Brittany, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure, I'll actually break from the girls and go with something a little different. I would establish a sleep schedule and establish really good sleep habits. Establish a way of going to bed, like you put your phone over there, even if you can't give it up, you have to put it on do not disturb or put it on vibrate where it won't disturb you, and go to sleep. I know that there's a lot of people out there that will say, I only need 4 hours of sleep. That is a lie that you tell yourself. And at some point during session, you will be pulling some very late nighters, and you will have wanted to have had some sleep up until that point. At this point in my life, I now get up by at least 7 a.m. every morning, like I try to sleep in. I can't even do it. So going to bed at a specific time is really helpful, because I do get that sleep and it sets the tone for your day. And trust me, by late April, when you are saying, now what was I saying? What was I looking for? Why did I even come in this room? That is going to be indicative of not getting enough sleep and entirely too much caffeine. So make sure you watch those habits. Stop drinking the caffeine at a certain hour so that you can go to sleep, and make sure you stay mentally and physically healthy.
That is very good advice. I think too many people pride themselves on not getting enough sleep, and it's not something to brag about. All right, so our next question is, you're proud of your boss and want to help spread the word on the great work you're doing this session. What is appropriate to share on social media and what is not? So I guess just in general, what are some good social media habits when talking about your work during session? I'll let you go first, Mia.
So bad at this.
So
I do not do social media. I'm so bad at this. I mean, I like to put things on social media about my church and about, I put very little about my personal life. And I would probably put more about my professional life, but I just don't know if my personal friends care about it. And you all know what I'm doing. Because I see you all. I cannot tell you how many people, and many of you know that I pass resumes around the building frequently, and I cannot tell you how many times I have a conversation with someone that says, but did you see what they posted? It is every single conversation I have about a resume, and it's either good or it's bad. I say that it's 90% of the conversations I have. So it is so important, and if you don't have anything nice, just don't say it. It is as easy as that. Whether you do social media or not, I don't do it, and I'm smart enough to know that. So that's all I'll say about that. If you can't say anything nice, don't say it at all.
I feel like Brittany's going to have a good round us out because she actually works in this area. I will say that much like Ashley, when I started in the Capitol, I remember, for those of you who don't know, I worked for Senator Hancock, then Representative Hancock. And I remember he came in one day and he said, "Did you see what I just tweeted?" I said, "What is a tweet?" I don't understand what you're talking about. And very quickly we learned that he was way more hip than we were, and we had to keep up with that. And so, it depends on your boss. It depends on how comfortable they are really talking about what they're doing on social media. But, that truly, if you're the boss, set a plan in place. If you're someone, who's working in an office, make sure you talk to both your chief of staff and your member about what they're comfortable with, because they may not want you talking about Bill 1900 that honors someone in the district, because they maybe it just wasn't something they wanted out there. And so just be aware of those things, and when in doubt, like Ashley said, just don't post it. But I know Brittany's going to have better advice because she's a comms specialist. So
my number one rule, and I will say this and I will say it again, if you've been drinking, do not get on Twitter, do not get on Facebook. You are not going to say anything that is of any value, and it is more likely to get you in trouble than it is to be of value to your boss. So do not do it. I am very cautious with what I put on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, etc. I watch the photos. I don't have anything that looks inappropriate. I don't have ones that folks might consider inappropriate. I consider it, because I'm a comms professional, because I do communications for my boss, I automatically assume that no matter what my privacy settings are, they are completely open to everyone. I have reporters as friends on all of these platforms. I just assume that whatever I put on there could be tomorrow's news. So I'm very cautious whenever I put stuff. Now, I do sometimes worry when I'm funny, or, I consider myself funny, whether or not it's going to be misperceived. So if you have any question about whether or not somebody might misperceive this, think about it. Think about what you're posting. Think about, is there any negative stereotypes that might be associated with this? Is it funny to me and to this small group that I'm a part of, but other folks aren't in on the joke, and so they might not understand that? When in doubt, always, just simply retweet things, but do not retweet. If you go to my Twitter feed, it is Texas General Land Office almost exclusively. And I rarely engage unless it's pleasant. I try to remain some folks will disagree and say that I've been, I'll use the word combative in the past, but I am forceful in standing up for my office and standing up for my boss. But I do so with facts. I try not to let any of it become personal, because another thing you need to think about is this is not your last job. So whatever job you have today is not going to be the only one you have of your career. If that is accurate, then let's have a talk, because you need to write a book. You will absolutely be in different offices that have different priorities, and you need to be very considerate of the fact that whoever you need to get that bill passed might not agree with you on every topic. So being snarky, being inappropriate could have long-term ramifications that you're not even thinking about at 22, 23, 24. If you would like to follow up with me on this topic, we can have coffee and I can talk for 3 hours. But yes, be very cautious with social media. And if you've had one or more beverages, please do not do it. Thank you.
And as a follow-up question to that, Brittany, as someone who works at a state agency, can you maybe talk a little bit about when, state time and what you're doing as a state employee and being on social media, particularly if you're someone like us who's also engaged in political activities?
Sure. Every state agency has a handbook, and if yours does not include a state social media policy, then you are failing. You need to have it. Now, you have to be careful because you need to balance freedom of speech with what your employee policy is. Now, ours is fairly similar. You can use social media even if it's not your job to do so during business hours, but it has to be intermittent. It can't be that you're sitting on Facebook all day or sitting on Twitter. We also mandate that you cannot act as though you're speaking on behalf of the agency. So if it is related to your agency or related to your boss, the best thing you can do is have a conversation with them about what is and is not appropriate, and make sure you don't step over those lines. Make sure that you are cognizant of that. And once again, if you are at all sharing anything related to your agency, that it is upstanding and that you are representing the agency or the elected official very positively, because only bad things happen when you engage poorly on social media.
Great advice. And our final question, and just a reminder to everyone watching, if you have questions, go ahead and start sending those in the chat, as this is our final question for this panel. And also, if you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. So our last question, what advice do you have for young staffers who are experiencing their first or maybe one of their first sessions during COVID? I'll go ahead and let you answer, Ashley.
Okay, I'll start. So this is so trite, and y'all are gonna all think I'm such a Pollyanna, and I kind of am. You just need to be kind, and I know that sounds silly, but we are all doing the best we can. I really do believe that, and some people's bests are better than others, and that's just life, and so we have to deal with that. But just be kind and just root for one another. And I mean, Mary Tips, I see you on this call, and we work on resumes together too. And, you know, I think when I started out, especially, I thought there was just some competition, and I'm not suggesting there's not a competition. I get it. There's only a finite amount of positions, and we're all, you know, gearing for them. But certainly in the lobby world, that's how it feels sometimes. But there are so many people that just need good resumes or need good staff or just need good advice or what have you. And we all have something to offer. And if you don't get that job this time, don't worry. There's something better for you. And I'm a believer. And so you know, God's got something better for you out there. So just be okay with that. And, you know, we just need to help each other, because I remember when I was a young staffer, and my first job was with Lieutenant Governor Rick Perry, and one of my compadres that came in with me got to go to the first meeting with him. It's just, oh my gosh, I was so jealous. I couldn't believe that she got to do that and I didn't. And she didn't even care about this stuff. And she wasn't in college Republicans, and she didn't help with the election. And I couldn't believe that she got to go in there, and she was just new. And I feel like I knew more than she, anyway, all of that. You know what? We are still in this business. She's doing great. I'm doing great. We're fine. I would still refer her to any job opening there was. And it didn't need to be cutthroat, and it wasn't. I'm never cutthroat, if y'all know me, but still, it's okay to just be supportive of one another. And if you have a staff member who's not pulling their weight, go offer to help, because your boss needs to look good, you need to look good, and you'll just learn something else. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Everything you can do to help is a good thing, and we should just all do it, because we're all going to have rough days. We're all going to not be at our best at some point. And, you know, we're all in this together. I mean, whether Republican or Democrat even, or whatever, you know, we're all working for the taxpayer here. So I'll just be kind. I know that sounds silly, but it's so important. We can't keep our eye off the ball.
Thanks, Ashley. Mia?
I mean, Ashley, I that's my advice to everybody. I just trained some of our interns, and that was my number one piece of advice: be kind. You know, I'm not gonna be kind and be truthful. You know, I would say that comes in second. Be kind. When I left the building to go lobby for a while, I got this email from a lobbyist who I didn't even realize really knew who I was, because she was really big time. And she sent me this email, and all it said was, "I am so happy for you. You were always so nice to me and always made time to visit with me. I could not be happier." And I thought, I was honestly speechless, because, you know, first of all, this big time lobbyist who I thought the world of was complimenting me, but those words have stuck with me, because you don't realize it. You know, I don't think we realize it until you leave the building, or you go, you still work with people in the building, but you're suddenly having to like fight your way back in. And that's huge. But the second one is just be honest. I mean, I tell people this all the time, especially in my current role. You might not like what I'm going to tell you, but I'm not going to lie to you about it. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear to get you off my back. I'm going to be kind about it, and I'm going to be honest. And I hope at the end of the day that it's not taken personal and we can continue being friends. But that goes with you forever. Your integrity, your word, people being able to know that when you tell them something, it's going to happen, is really big. And obviously things happen in this business where, you think something's going to happen and 5 minutes later that whole thing changes. But, I think people know the difference between you purposefully lying to someone and it just being something that happened in the process. So just be truthful.
Thanks, Mia. Brittany?
So I've got a couple of different ones. I totally agree with everything that was just said. Kindness and honesty you just can't win that back if you violate those. So they're fantastic, but don't underestimate people. I've seen people brush by a scheduler and say, I know the chief of staff. And guess what? That scheduler is going to be next year's chief of staff, or even next month's. This is the Texas capital and things move quickly here. But even in DC, I lived in DC for 9 years, and some of the people that were interns are now chief of staff. And that's just the way the world works. So, and also never underestimate what that individual can do for you right then and there. A scheduler knows what time periods their boss are most likely to cancel meetings. So if they want to make sure you don't have a meeting, they can schedule you for that time, knowing that their boss is probably going to cancel it. So make sure that you are kind to everyone and understand that everybody in this role has a job and they're there to be respected as well. Also, listen more and talk less. And the exception to that is asking questions. When you're younger and just starting out your job, no one expects you to have a vast resume. So there's no need to be constantly trying to fill the void. In fact, one of the most powerful people I know in state government right now, her main weapon is the pause. If she really wants to make them uncomfortable and make them talk, she stops. And then they feel like they need to fill that space. And she learns more from that uncomfortable silence than she ever did from speaking herself. I've had a specific example of a bill that I was trying to push, and I thought it was dead in the water because the most powerful group that could possibly oppose us came into our office saying that my bill was the worst thing they've ever seen, and that their number one goal that year was to destroy my bill. And I started asking them questions. It turns out that it wasn't the actual bill, but where it was placed in statute that was problematic because it triggered another mechanism. And because of that, they didn't want that there. And I said, well, what if we were just to move it here? And they said, oh yeah, that's fine. I almost had a disastrous session because I did not have it in the right place. But they were not about to tell me that. They were just hating my bill. So by asking those questions, I was able to find out what the real problem was. And I was their legislative staffer of the year, and we still keep in touch today. So, so you can take those opportunities to ask questions and learn more.
Thank you, Brittany. And I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So last call, if anyone has questions, or I'll give y'all a minute or two if y'all have any closing words. Don't feel pressured.
I have a question.
Oh, thanks.
So historically speaking, women aren't always nice to women in politics. What is your best advice for dealing with difficult coworkers who sometimes feel like they have something to prove?
Well, I'll start. I pray about it. And then I'm extra nice. And then I pray about it some more. And then I'm still nice. And that's really it. And like I said, everybody's got a bad day. And if you just say, I'm having a rough day too, can I help you? I mean, I know, again, I go back to kindness, and you're right, Mia, honesty and everything Brittany said. It just really, if you are just a good human being, and I don't know if that's because we have some really bad human beings in this business, I don't know, but we really have some wonderful people. And I think the world of so many people that I get to work with. And I just feel like if we started out more thinking we really should be helpful to one another as opposed to competitive with one another, it just changes everything. And I think for the most part, it's because you're right, Ashley, it's because we're competitive and we come at it from the wrong direction. And so we just start off on the wrong foot. And if you just be helpful and just be kind, will go far. And then if that person still doesn't like you, who cares? Because everybody else knows you're kind. So it's fun.
You know, this is one of the soapboxes I can get on sometimes, because I'm a huge believer in mentorship and in women lifting each other up. You know, ladies, you know, there are men on this call too, and we couldn't do it without you, but you know, we've come a long way. I mean, Republican or Democrat, the United States just elected a female vice president. I mean, there was a time maybe 10 years ago, I didn't think I'd ever see it in my lifetime. But just, I'm a strong believer in mentorship. I'm a believer in helping other women in this business. I think that we bring so many unique ideas to the table. We think about things differently and we approach things differently. And I think, you know, it makes me really happy when I get the little blue book and you start looking through and seeing how many females are in that chief of staff role now, because that's not what it used to be, ladies. You know, a lot of you who are younger are used to this. You think this is, you know, it's no big deal. It is a big deal. It's a huge deal to see so many women in leadership positions. I see Brooke on here. I mean, she's commissioner of a huge agency. I mean, things like this weren't common when I started 15 years ago. So, you know, the more that we can do to help each other and continue to promote each other, you know, we're going to be better off.
Thank you, Mia. Brittany?
Building on that, I think that that's one good reason to build your network, because I have had uncomfortable conversations with individuals where I might be misreading what they're saying. So if I know a friend of theirs, I can approach them and say, you know, hey, am I misreading somebody? Did this weird thing happen? Can you help me? And then a lot of times I'll learn, oh, I mean, I'll never forget, I found out that somebody in DC was going through a divorce, and it wasn't about me at all. So if somebody is being rude to you, you might think about what else it could be. It might not be you at all. It might be they're having a bad day, their boss just was angry with them, etc. So growing that network and always being kind to that person in the face of them being rude or whatever, goes a long way towards making sure that relationship doesn't go downhill further.
Great. Well, thank you ladies so much for joining us. We appreciate all of your advice. And I'm going to turn it back over to Cassie for our next item on the agenda.